In this game with a vast array of characters, the fat could have been trimmed here a bit certainly, there is one. Oh, wait, this sounds familiar, doesn't it? One character above all rises in our minds. The myth, the man, the legend, the being of nightmares. No, not him. We've already covered him. I'm talking, of course, about this man, Wiegraf Folles. Yeah, that sent a chill down your spine, didn't it? Wiegraf is perhaps most remembered for this infamous battle that forced many a player to restart their entire game file. Back in the day, where we had a memory card with limited slot space. Yeah, that just made me feel old. Yet, there's more to remember of Wiegraf than what a colossal asshat he can be. His is a sad tale, one of bravery, perseverance, pride, and the loss of self in the face of misfortune, when yourself is all that you had left. We know very little of Wiegraf's story before we chance upon him in the Dordrecht slums. A well-dressed man, a sultan brigand, demanding information on the kidnapping of the Marquis Umdor. Wiegraf doesn't tarry long, and Delia mentions that he seems quite familiar. During the tail end of the 50 Years' War, Wiegraf was one of many peasants that volunteered as levies to swell the Ivalician armies to defend his country. Along with his sister, his friends, and many others, they formed a military band known as the Dead Men, later to better be known as the Corpse Brigade. To better understand Wiegraf, we must first better understand the 50 Years' War. It was primarily a conflict between Ivalice and Erdalia. When King Dema III died without heir or successor, don't worry if you don't know who that is, he's a blurb in the game's backstory, the lineage became a messy matter, made messier over the decades by the sudden crownings and deaths of several kings in Ivalice. Imagine, then, being Wiegraf, a commoner dreaming of honor and recognition in the defense of your country. You march with friends, with family, with heads young and old swollen with songs of heroic deeds, and new tales yet to be told. Perhaps they'll make a song of you. The battle begins and you're invigorated. You trust your comrades, you trust in your cause, you trust in your worth. And then the blades begin to dance. The earth beneath your feet turns muddy with the blood of friend and foe alike, and there are moments maybe you can't even tell the difference. Many will die without ever having raised their blade, and the songs become dirges of death instead. An hour becomes a day, becomes a year, and when the bodies lay strewn around you, you're not filled with pride, but rather fear, revulsion. There's a hard knot in your chest and bile in your throat and blood on your hands. But there are more battles to come. You fight first under one lord, then another. The first king that begun this war is dead, has been long since dead before you ever joined. And the man that succeeded him? You've never even seen his face before he too dies. And another takes up the mantle. And soon enough, you're not fighting for your king anymore. You're fighting for survival. Your sword is chipped, your boots in tatters, your helmet lost somewhere, your armor dented, and one strong blow could be your death now. You sleep and breathe in your armor for fear to be caught unawares. If you can sleep at all. And suddenly one day you're roused and a man tells you, the war is over. Pack your bags. Go home, soldier. And so you do. And as you stand beside your comrades, the feverish glory gone from their eyes, you're informed that you will not, in fact, be being compensated after all. That your many years of commitment to your country are thanked, but now it's time to replace the sword for a hoe. There is no anger. Not initially. Just numbness. And you look around at your fellow soldiers, the men and women you fought beside for years, and that last tiny spark of hope flickers from their eyes, and they've become dead men for true. And this is how Wiegraf Folles went from exalted soldier to silver-tongued vigilante. Wiegraf rallied the surviving soldiers to take up arms again, but this time in a cause of their own, to eliminate the aristocracy that fought this war on the backs of the peasantry, and lost it. Yet, Wiegraf wasn't lost. Not completely, not just yet. Wiegraf represents the follies of the pride of man. Unwilling to pick up a hoe again, he once more takes up the sword. He still has honor, he still has values, standards, traits that the nobility couldn't strip from him and the war couldn't beat from him. When his lieutenant Gustave kidnapped the Marquis Umdor, he turned from vigilantism to plain lawlessness. And Wiegraf Folles means to make the right of this. And so he was, when Ramza and Delia come upon him in the hole in which Umdor is detained. Gustave's broken form lays at his feet, a friend and trusted comrade, a remnant of the dead men. But Wiegraf's pride couldn't permit him to spare this man. Although Wiegraf is quick to point his blade at Umdor, he would not harm him. Not now. Not with Gustave's blood soaking his boots. But these bright-eyed, battle-hungry children know not that, and so he escapes. The deed is done, and there is no looking back, and no time to dwell on matters. Wiegraf seeks to mend the broken shards of the corpse brigade back together with gold. It's only united that they can hope to achieve their goal, to eliminate the aristocracy and classism itself. He's dismayed then to discover that Gorgoroth has taken up Gustav's mantle, and kidnapped a noble maid during his assault on Dysadark Beowulf. The Order of the Northern Sky marches to rout them even now. And here we begin to see a shift in Wiegraf's demeanor, a fracture in his noble facade. That old harrowing fear is back in Gorgoroth's eyes, and he says, 100 swords, 1,000, could not buy our freedom with such ease. Gorgoroth is no longer thinking about the fight. He's thinking about survival. And Wiegraf challenges him on this, saying, "We must make for our children a fairer future than the past that you and I have known." Here we see that Wiegraf is still clinging desperately to his ideals. The stone we cast may raise only the smallest of waves, but see how they crash upon the shore. Wiegraf is an idealist, desperate, but not to make a name for himself, but rather to leave a legacy, to do more than swing a sword in a failed war, to bring about promise and change in Ivalice. Gorgoroth then says, "Then you order us to our deaths." Wiegraf is on the verge of regrouping in Ziegden Fortress when the news comes. Meluda, his sister, killed by the Order. He orders Gorgoroth away, yet still demanding the release of the captive, and unsheathes his blade to do battle, with no certainty of what he faces, so that his men may live. Yet, when confronted with his sister's killers, Wiegraf is no longer resigned. He is furious. Meluda deserved a better death. They did not even send proper knights to kill her. And in his confidence, Wiegraf proclaims that he will not flee before Meluda's killers, and then promptly teleports away once you've smacked him a couple of times. This is where you can see the threads of his demeanor begin to wear thin. And when the Order of the Northern Sky storms Ziegden Fortress, Wiegraf Folles is nowhere to be found. Heavily wounded, in vengeance and desperation, Gorgoroth ignites the gunpowder inside the fortress. We can only speculate on his final thoughts and the madness that drove him to this final action. Perhaps, in the end, he found a bit of solace. A year or more passes with the corpse brigade disbanded, and no whisper of Wiegraf. That is, until... Kneeling before Meluda's grave, Wiegraf laments the failures of his actions. His inability to protect his sister, his men, the common folk, from the savagery of the aristocracy. Wiegraf's little war was ended, and he forgotten. There's nothing more for him. His pride cannot resurrect his sister. He swore vengeance, but his blade remained sheathed. And in the darkest moments of his reflection, a man appears, Lawfrey, a Knight Templar, saying he comes at another's behest, and that his purpose is a simple one: to find you. At first, Wiegraf is understandably dismissive of the stranger, but Lawfrey offers him a tasteful treat: the opportunity to pick up his sword again in defense of the common folk of Ivalice. Have you alone the strength to avenge Meluda? Have you alone the power to grasp the reins of Ivalice? A chilling, familiar statement. The reins of history back in the hands of man. We can only surmise here that the Knights Templar, and so the Lucavi, have chosen Wiegraf for his undying ambition. Hatred and grief have embittered this man, making him tractable and easily manipulated. And here, Wiegraf's integrity falters. He is no longer the man that punished his friend Gustav for his errant ways. He is no longer a man of the people, largely forgotten. His deeds swiftly diminished. Although Wiegraf becomes a Knights Templar, he is not wholly one of them. Not yet. He is compliant, complacent, poised, but still his own man. And while he enters Orban Monastery in search of the Germanic scriptures and the Orsite, he may be as ignorant as Isolde as to the church's true intentions. And here in the monastery vaults, he's given once more the chance to square off against Ramza Beov, to take his revenge at last, with no qualms and no hesitancy. He utters a quiet prayer, and unsheathes his hungry sword. I have lived for this, Ramza. How long has it been since we last met? Then you were a warrior who fought to make your dream a reality. Now you are only a thrall to the church. What troubled sleep have you known to speak of my dreams? And here still his pride and his arrogance fuels him. The absoluteness that his sanctimonious ideology must grant him victory. And Ramza says, I pity you, Wiegraf. Even as a man of broken dreams, you might still have been remembered fondly. Your ideas lifted the people, showed them the cracks in the age-old facade of the aristocracy. You acted on your own convictions, and so ennobled those actions. But what would people think now? What would Meluda and your fallen friends think of this martyr you've struck? When at last defeated and mortally wounded, Wiegraf's desperation leads him to his final folly. In his final moments, Wiegraf crawls his way from the monastery. He urges a mortified Isolde to leave. This man has spent half his life in war, struggling for the safety of his country, the good of his people, the vengeance of his sister. The recognition that Meluda was a commoner worth more than unclean death. So that his actions, her actions, the lives of the corpse brigade, and the lives of the common folk would not be forgotten. Wiegraf believed that the justice of his cause would drive his blade true, and he was wrong. And as he lays there outside the monastery, lamenting breathlessly of his failures, the stone speaks. God's stone bearer, with me now do you treat. Your spirit and my flesh as one shall merge, life undying, yours forevermore. Your ire and despair, their call I heed. And so once more I ask, with me do you treat? Wiegraf discards his values and accepts this pact. Demon and man join to become the Lucavi Belias. And he says something interesting here. Magnificent, the power of the gods. Nay, not only power, so much more. Sights unknown I see. my mind a vessel filled with the wisdom of 1,000 years. And with that, he leaves. It's debatable how much of the host's true nature remains once they are joined with the Lucavi. Wiegraf's last line in this scene appears to indicate that he retains something of himself, although notably his manner of speech is greatly changed. The next and last time that we meet with Wiegraf, he appears human once more, choosing this final time to face Ramza as himself. But whatever vestige of the man Wiegraf Folles once was, is gone. What must Maluda think to see you now? You would sell your soul to the Lucavi to slake your thirst for revenge. Revenge? You think that is what drives me? I have no such petty concerns. I do not fight to avenge Maluda's death. I sow the seeds of chaos in the world of men, and then reap the anguished cries of the weak. Despite Ramza's overtures, his desperation, the veracity of his words, Wiegraf will not be swayed. The people do not endeavor themselves towards greatness, but rather mire themselves in petty strifes, shackles on the feet of men. Do men exploit this weakness to dominate their fellows? Mayhap they do, but they succeed only because the people are eager to know such dominion. And he confesses that it was his own fear and his own weakness that at last led him astray from his ideals. Can you claim to be free of weakness and fear? And with the last swing of Ramza's sword, a new voice joins the fray. This has gone on long enough. The battle with Wiegraf has ended. The aspiring soldier become brigand is gone. The hero of the people, who chose integrity over the lives of his comrades, just gone. And in his place is the monster Belias. And when the Lucavi is destroyed, there's not even a murmur of the man that gave him life. Man and beast became one, until they became indistinguishable.